Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I want to give notice that we were just in executive session, doing some committee interviews and discussing some legal issues. First event of the evening will be open public participation. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, 5 minutes. Talk about whatever you like. 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1 if you go on, means you have a minute left.
If you give me $10, I won't talk at all. How about that? No, I'm teasing.
If you could just give us your name.
Oh, I'm John Child. I'm precinct committee man in Radnor, 7th Ward, 2nd Precinct. Got elected with a whopping 85 votes. Holy smokes. I've got 20 questions tonight regarding the election and the election process, so I'll just rattle them off real quick. Number 1 is, why does Delaware County allow uncertified software on all their election machines? Number 2, why does Delaware County refuse to test a sufficient size test deck during logic and accuracy testing as required by law? It gets more exciting later. Why does Delaware County refuse to hash test all the election machines rather than just a tiny sample? Number 4 is, why did Delaware County destroy the digital records from previous software versions during their upgrades of election software like they're supposed to by law? Number 5 is, why has Delaware County been pre-canvassing mail-in ballots out of sight of the observers at the wharf? The wharf is the centralized counting center in Chester, and they barely let us see anything, especially pre-canvassing. Anyway, number 6, why don't the number of Delaware County mail-in ballots observed on the floor by observers in any way closely match the number reported on election night? Why cannot Delaware County produce a chain of custody logs for the mail-in ballots? Why doesn't Delaware County have written procedures for the processing of mail-in ballots at the wharf in Chester City? Number 9, why does Delco refuse to allow observation of the uploading of tabulation results in the back room? Number 10, why do the mail-in ballot envelopes show timestamps from multiple machines? Why doesn't Delco include any mail-in ballots in the statistical 2% audit? Why has Delaware County taken over and hijacked the so-called independent bipartisan return board? Why won't Delaware County publish the audit report of their return board report? Number 14, why has Delaware County paid a fortune in legal fees to hide these said reports from the records requests? 15, why will Delaware County not get rid of their 37 drop boxes, more than in Philadelphia County, by the way? Why do we still have 37 drop boxes that are not properly surveilled? They're open 24/7. They cost a lot of money to service, and they're not needed or required by law. 16, why doesn't Delaware County allow live stream of the Dropbox video? 17, why did Delaware County locate the centralized counting center in Chester, of all places, rather than in Media, the county seat, as specified by the election code? 18, 2 more to go. Why did Delaware County accept, you've heard of Zuckerbucks? This is the grant money from the CTCL, the Center for Tech and Civic Life. So why did they accept all that money? 19, why in the world did Delaware County hire a director of elections from, of all places, Chicago? 20, why does Delaware County not promptly remove people who have why have they not promptly removed people who have moved out of the county from the voter rolls? And that is my comment. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service. Your job is not an easy one. Thank you again.
Thank you. Any other public participation? Seeing none, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that any commissioner or any member of the public would like to pull? Commissioner Agnew. A?
Regard to disbursements. Mike? Oh, I'm sorry. It's like I don't know anybody named Mike.
So you're saying item A?
Yes.
Okay. Any other item any commissioner or member of the public would like to pull? Seeing none, let's start with item A, the AP disbursements.
So I was wondering about, we've spent a lot of money on the storm sewer management, $605,000 in the past couple of months. And I was just, if you could explain to people what we got for that money? Steve, Bill, Bob?
Thank you, Commissioner. I can answer. The Storm Sewer Fund, what you're seeing on tonight's agenda is a series of payments over the last 3 check runs, 2 in July, 1 in August. A series of payments on multiple projects spanning multiple purchase requisitions, some going back to 2022 when the project was approved and originated, some in 2023 and the balance in 2024. The details, just as a reminder, there is an application that the township has available called Open Finance. It's on the township's website. It has a database of every transaction and every disbursement that the township processes. So all of that information is available, transparent to the public, and can be viewed. It's updated on a regular basis. I did review the Stormwater and Capital Fund. There's a series of about 20 different purchase orders spanning 12 different projects. And it's a variety of expenses paid on different projects that have been ongoing for the past several years.
Let me just say, I'm not contesting that these are bills that didn't have to be paid. I just want, so that people understand what was, maybe this is better answered by Steve, what was done. So that people say, oh, I got this on, on Aberdeen, and I got that on Wentworth, and I got this on that, or, what was done?
So, Commissioner, to Mr. Tate's point.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I can jump in. I can just at a very high level, the Shimoni Road culvert, the Hunt Road Bridge replacement, the Walnut Avenue culvert are 3 of the significant projects that payments were made. Most significantly was on the Shimoni Road project.
That's what I meant. I just wanted people to understand that there was a lot of money that was spent, but there were some significant projects that were completed or in progress.
Yes.
Because most people are not going to go to the Open Finance and take a look. So just that we get a big, as you said, like a bird's eye view. In the same vein, the capital improvement was almost $300,000. In that big, overhead view, what did we get for that? What capital improvements, like particular street, buildings, what happened? Steve?
The most significant expenditure out of that group was a payment for a piece of capital equipment that was part of the approved budget.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that payment was made. It's for a truck chassis. It's just over $150,000. So that represents most of the 163 spent in the capital fund.
Okay. And then there was, and this is a very small amount, the library improvement fund was $1,600, $1,665. What happened with the library?
As part of our agreement with the library, the library is responsible for the initial $500 for routine repair and maintenance, and then the township will cover the excess over and above that.
So that was just routine repair because they have a lot of HVAC problems and leaking roof and that sort of thing. Is that it's just basic maintenance?
That's correct. I can get you that information
That's
separately
right.
on
That's
specifically what that repair was. I don't have that right here in front of me.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
If only the roof would be as inexpensive as
Yes,
that.
I would
Right. Any other commissioner comment on item A? Any public comment on item A on the consent agenda? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve item A and a second? Second by Commissioner Riley? Yeah. All right, let's take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right, items B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, and I believe, yes, on the consent agenda. Could I, is there any commissioner, I guess there's no commissioner question, or you would have pulled it, any public participation on the rest of the consent agenda? Seeing none, could I have a motion to pass the rest of the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, let's have a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passed unanimously. All right, moving on to the business agenda. Item A is the appointment to the Civil Service Commission of Joseph Palantonio for an unexpired term ending 12/31/29. Any commissioner comment or public comment on that? Do we need to vote? Seeing none, could I have a motion for that appointment by Commissioner Mulrooney and a second by Commissioner Coates? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous on item A. Item B on the business agenda is Resolution 2024-92, Land Development Plan, Preliminary Approval of 26 Wentworth Lane, a two-lot subdivision and building. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second? All right. Mr. Norsini, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So we have Tim Davis from Shock Engineering representing the applicant here. This is a twin. There were some questions brought up at the last meeting, specifically moving the house back to be in line with the other houses on Wentworth. Commissioner Coates talked about a fee in lieu of for sidewalks. So I'll let Mr. Davis get into it, but they did move the house back, and they are prepared to pay a fee in lieu of.
Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. So as Steve alluded to, we had previous conversations with both the Planning Commission and the board, and per those conversations, the applicant agreed to move the house back. Previously, the house had a cantilever of the second floor over the garage. The entire house now shifts back to where that garage that was 40 feet back off of the curb line is now the full facade of the house, more keeping in line with the rest of the houses immediately to the left of the house facing it. So the next 5 houses to the left all have around that plus or minus about 3 feet within where the house is now proposed. So we were able to shift that back. The houses did get wider, so the houses share the exact same footprint. The stormwater, it is noted, is for the maximum allowable by zoning. We are not taking all that as part of this, so there's no impact to the stormwater.
Do you have the new plans that you can show us the difference?
They were sent digitally. I have them on an iPad if that is able to be brought up.
Ian might be able to put up what you, here he comes, like magic, he knows.
You said you sent them, right?
Yes.
We should have them as an attachment on our agenda. So, you have an iPad too?
Yeah.
If we can't find them on here, I'll zoom in on the camera, but they should all be as attachments on the agenda. And then this is your one specific.
Should be the Rev 4.
This one?
One
Rev,
down.
gotcha.
Yep.
And you can refer to any of these, just bring them up as needed.
Yep. Great.
1 second, I'll bring it up on the screen.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian. So as we can see on the screen, the house, which previously overhung to the full extent of this front porch, is now being brought back. We do still have 2 front porches that are single story, that are in line with the neighboring houses. So those are just off the driveway. You'll step onto the porch and then onto the front door from there. So the mass of the house is now brought back to this line here, which is that 40 feet back from this curb line. If I'm able to zoom in, I believe we have a dimension. So this dimension right here, we are 44.5 feet from the curb line.
Thank you very much for making that adjustment and showing us what it looks like.
We also did comply with the request of Mr. Norsini to move the stormwater fully out of the sanitary easement in the rear yard. So now the stormwater is out of that easement as well.
Could you move it so we could see that? Do you mind? I'm sure it's on this in the back. There it is.
And due to the flexibility provided by the crate systems, where we're able to reconfigure them, there's no impact to the footprint. They were just reconfigured out. We are working with an arborist. We do think they'll have more impact to the trees that are right next to it by that shift. The arborist thinks that they can save them, but we are working through that.
Thank you. Any public comment? Commissioner questions or comments?
No, I'll just say thank you for making the adjustments. It looks like you guys did everything that, we asked for, and I appreciate the flexibility. The only thing that's open is the sidewalk escrow. I think we talked about you guys doing that. I think that looks great. Open question, even though we have the sidewalk escrow put aside, just allowing for us to be able to use that, whether that's for walking path or for sidewalks in other parts of the area, making sure we can do that without question that's earmarked versus it going into the general fund. Just want to make sure that's called out.
What'll happen, Commissioner, is when they receive final plan approval, there's going to be a development agreement where they put money up for the stormwater systems and any other sort of common amenities or public improvements. And in that agreement, it'll call out the sidewalk money and how it can be used.
Thank you. That's perfect. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a preliminary approval, which means we'll get to see you again. Could I have a vote to approve Resolution 2024-92 Land Development Plan Preliminary Approval for 26 Wentworth Lane? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is item C, is a caucus, a land development plan, preliminary/final approval for 270 Bryn Mawr Avenue, which is a 4-story senior living facility. We don't need a motion. You want to start us off?
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Dan Rowley with the law firm of Saul Ewing. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, which is the Greater Federation of, the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, which is the owner of the property located at 270 South Bryn Mawr Avenue here in Radnor Township. We are here this evening to present a preliminary final land development application for the construction of a senior living facility on the Jewish Federation's property. This has been a bit of a long gestating project in the township. We originally filed a zoning hearing board application for the project in January of 2023, seeking some zoning relief for the project. The zoning hearing board issued a decision in March of 2023, which granted some of the relief and denied some relief. We then appealed a portion of the zoning hearing board decision, and through the appeal process, the township and the applicant worked together towards reaching a mutually beneficial settlement agreement. And throughout the settlement process, many of the design and site elements were agreed to by the applicant and the township. And in fact, the plans detailing a lot of those design and site elements were attached to the settlement agreement. So although we are in the preliminary final land development review stage, many of the typical land development items have really already been worked out. The land development plans are consistent with the settlement agreement. For instance, we are limited to a maximum of 149 total units and minimum parking requirements in the settlement agreement, both of which we comply with. The parking and design of the plans are also controlled by the settlement agreements, which, again, our plans are consistent with. We presented the plans to the Township Planning Commission, which recommended approval of our plans. We also presented to the Shade Tree Commission and received a recommendation of approval from them as well. We've also received review letters from Gilmore and Associates and Gannett Fleming. With the exception of 3 waivers we are requesting, we will comply on all of the township review letter comments. I have with me Natalie Rosato of Bowler Engineering and Mike Mayer of Westrum Development. And I'll leave it up to the discretion of the board. If you have any questions for us, or if you would like us to walk through the plans or any specific comments in the review letters, we're happy to do so.
I would very much like for you to walk through the plans.
Sure, absolutely. And we do have hard copies of the plans. I also have a thumb drive, whatever is easier
Yeah,
for the
let's
board.
do the thumb drive,
Okay.
let everybody see what you're proposing.
Sure. This first one.
Yep.
Yeah, if you want to.
Let's see here. Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Mayer. I'm with Westrum Development. Maybe I can do a little tag team here. I'll present some of the high-level images of the campus and the overall reaching stuff, and then Natalie here can talk about any of the specifics of the latest plans and addressing the latest review letters that we received just a few weeks ago. You're looking at a slide now that shows the campus. It's about a 35-acre campus. There are existing tenants that occupy the property. The largest is Barak Hebrew Academy. The building and the project that we've been talking about for the last 2.5 or so years is this building here. If you see, it's kind of circling my cursor, Heater Chabad. It's a existing K through 8 school. They've stopped operating in that building. They've been planning to vacate that building for some time, and that's where the project will where the Heater Chabad building exists today. It'll be demolished and to make way for this plan. This is an existing conditions site of the 35-acre campus. Really, the purpose of this, really, when we first started to look at this, was to really identify some of the steep slopes and other kind of critical features of the campus that we want to make sure we could preserve or certainly have a suitable design for, and we believe we have that now. This is the finished plan, kind of how we incorporate this senior living community onto the campus. I'm going to flip to the next slide. It's a color version of the same. The only difference between this plan and the next plan, if you follow my cursor here to kind of plan right, this is the final location where there, where there will be a pedestrian crossing along South Bryn Mawr Avenue. And this location was endorsed by staff Gilmore at Traffic as well as PennDOT. It's the safest location to have a safe pedestrian connection. This plan here shows the former location, which was further planned right here. That's the only difference here. Kind of really what you see is in terms of the color rendering of the site plan. And what do you see here? Really what's changing, besides the demolition of the existing building, there'll be a new driveway on plan left here that kind of borders the left side of the property. You'll see in a minute, this existing parking lot exists today. We're going to rebuild that and preserve it essentially in kind. And as you walk through the new building,
there's 2 driveways that'll service this property, or garage levels, rather. Excuse me. First, as you come up the entrance, there's this kind of this horseshoe entrance along right here. This is the main entrance. It's a porte cochere. There's about 12 or 14 parking spaces where the visitors will come. It's really where residents and their visitors and families will have their first real experience coming to the community. If you just follow my cursor around to the bottom right here, this level will bring you to the lower level parking. There's 2 levels of parking garage here. This will bring you to the lower level parking along here. And then you flip to the other side of the building where you'll have another driveway that'll take you just to the upper level of the parking. I'm going to skip some of the details. If you care to see some of the renderings that were prepared over the course of the last couple of years, I'm going to just jump through here very quickly to get you some of the renderings, and then I can give it back to Natalie for any kind of technical questions that you may want to discuss. Hang on here. Let's see here. Okay, so we prepared some of the elevations. As Dan shared, these were part of in the settlement agreement. Really, what you're looking at here, the top elevation is that kind of porte cochere, the main entrance that I shared with you. You kind of have a horseshoe driveway along here. Plan left is, as you can see, it drops down the site. So you'd have kind of that lower level garage entrance here along plan left here. The lower elevation here is the back side of the property, where you see essentially. I'm sorry. This is the site that faces the soccer fields. You'd have this elevation of soccer fields where you have kind of glass design that breaks up the building. That was part of the agreement with the settlement to make sure the building fit into the campus. So we worked very closely with staff to design a building we felt was supportive of the campus design at large. 2 more renderings. You see kind of you can actually see the back sides of the building where you have those garage entrances. The top one is the elevation where you have essentially, at this elevation, the top elevation, you essentially have the 3 stories of the building, and then you have 2 more elevations that really encompass the parking garage. Because you have such steep slopes that we were able to build into those steep slopes to minimize the disturbance. This is the solution that we came up with that we think was the solution that allowed to really kind of build this property and this project into the campus. So let me just throw some renderings as well. This is that horseshoe porte cochere entrance that we shared a little bit, just give you a flavor of kind of what the field would look like. This elevation essentially is facing the soccer fields or Bryn Mawr Avenue. On this side, you really just have a 3-story building because the topography on the back side will really add the additional layers of elevation. This is also from the soccer fields, just a picked up bird's eye view of it. The entrance to your left is kind of that driveway, the porte cochere you see just to the left. The next one will show you from the back here of that 5-story where you have the lower level garages that service the project. Yeah, so I flipped it around. If you look at the top of the screen, this is Bryn Mawr Avenue. The Proclamation Presbyterian Church is plan right. The porte cochere entrance driveway here, and access to the lower level parking is, if you follow my cursor here, access to the upper level parking is plan left here. And essentially what you see from the exterior is a mix of what will be in the building, which is 149 units. About half, or about 75 of those 149 units will be independent living. What does that mean? That means it's an independent living. They'll have full kitchens. They'll be able to bring their car to and from as they choose. They'll have, many of the units will be outfitted with porches attached to their units to have a little bit of outdoor space within their units. The rest of the spaces of the other half are a combination of personal care and memory care. Memory care is what you think. It's the Alzheimer's patients that need that, that special care. Those are, it's the smallest percentage of our units, around 25 or 24 of the units will be the memory care. And the balance of that personal care, those are units and residents that need some level of care, and it graduates depending on their physical conditions. Lots of amenities inside this building. I think we've had previous presentations where we talked about what's available for the residents. There's multiple dining options. There's cafes. There's a doctor's office that comes in for services for the residents that live here. There's a beauty salon and a barber shop. There's a mail room. There's a shuttle that'll allow the residents to go to events or just normal activities that they want to do within the area. You can kind of see on the rendering here, just in this area, this is a second floor elevated outdoor patio. Other communities that we've built, the residents have created their own vegetable gardens and herb gardens. So it's a very active program. Also within the building, there's a movie theater. There's a BYOB pub that's very popular for the residents. Just lots of activities. It's really designed to really engage and bring activities around there. It's also designed for the residents who live here to be the residents that generally live here, our experience is that their adult children live nearby and their grandchildren. So it's really designed to bring that connection of our residents into this community. So it's not like your old version of where grandma and grandpa go and that's it, but it's really, really a connection to the community where they've spent their, the majority of their lives so far. I think that's I can get into the floor plans if you like. There's more details, but I think that's really kind of the high level, just as a refresher for the board that has seen this before and kind of as a primer for the new board members that haven't seen this presentation yet. Happy to answer any questions. Also, happy to get into the details of some of the technical elements that Natalie is here from Board to walk through should the board care.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions, comments? Yep, Commissioner Abel.
So I mean, this picture is perfect. So on the parking, I mean, what do you envision? 149 units. How much of the parking inside versus how much of the parking outside? Because right now, if you go there tonight, there's no lights right now, but from like 5 to 8:30, that place is packed with cars, and they don't have enough parking spots as is to accommodate the kids that are playing soccer. So how many spaces are you guys taking up that would be currently used for soccer players?
Well, the zone, let me just back up. How we operate these, our experience for operating these, we built 8 of these facilities. Our experience is that the independent living units, in this case it's around 75, about half of those residents have cars. Personal care and memory care don't. And then we have staff that's about 25 in its peak. So we have a low volume parking requirement as an operator. Zoning requires 118 parking spaces. We have about
162.
So we have 48 extra spaces pursuant to the zoning. So now let me answer your question. So what we've also counted as part of the parking is this lot we call the Hubner lot. This is an existing lot. It's 35 or so spaces. We have that as available for the project. There's also, I guess I would say, so the bottom line is there's more parking spaces part of our plan that we'll ever need. We only have a requirement of 118 spaces. So what happens when, one of the first slides I shared was with Barrick, who uses the campus, the main campus. There's an agreement of cooperation when one of our tenants or the operators has a special event, how we're going to work through that. There's an operating agreement to be able to have those accommodations.
Okay. Yeah, this issue's every night. So they're not special events, they're nightly events. But are you saying that that back parking lot then is part of your property?
That's part, I mean, the campus is not subdivided, but that Huebner lot is part of what we included at the 164 spaces. We only need 118, so if we could eliminate, we don't have any demand to use all of it. Our peak period of time for when our residents and their families visit is usually that Saturday or Sunday. It's not a Tuesday night or a Monday night. But we do have in our 2 levels of parking, we've about, on the lower level, we have 46 spaces, and the upper level, 36 spaces. So in the building, without even using anything. Let me just go back to the site plan, if I can. So within the building, you have those 2 levels of parking, the lower level at 46 and the upper level at 36. You have another 14 spaces, Natalie, in the horseshoe, which is right here. We're going to be rebuilding and reconfiguring parking along kind of the soccer field along here as well. But it's an integrated campus.
Yeah. During construction, will access to any of the facilities be prohibited?
What, the soccer fields?
Soccer fields?
No. There's going to be disruption for sure. But Barrick, who's the main operator on this campus, they're going to need to continue to operate and provide the services that they need to.
Okay. And yeah, I just happened to have spent a lot of time at one of these facilities in the city over the last several months. Does your plan show sidewalks around? Because the residents who live there, one of their main forms of exercise is just getting out, getting fresh air, and walking around the building and into the property. And particularly sidewalks in the front where you'd be close to the soccer fields and all the driving.
There are sidewalks, right, Natalie? There are sidewalks along essentially this entrance here and the connection of sidewalks that essentially, Natalie, I'm doing this right, follow this curve here, and then it kind of loops around the campus along this way here. It also further connects this long trail that we're doing along Bryn Mawr Avenue connects to the property's edge.
Any trails that go back into the green space?
There's a lot of existing trails. We're not touching those. They're not necessarily suitable for elderly, but there's beautiful, if you've been on that campus, there's lots of trails and beautiful walking areas available if our residents are able-bodied, for sure. I mean, it's a really wonderful place, and they can take advantage of that existing mature campus, which is just beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
There's quite a hill between here and those trails, too. I mean, it goes pretty much straight down to that little pond, so. Tell me about rhyme or reason for the 2-deck parking with separate entrances. Like, why isn't it just one entrance in a regular parking lot like every place else?
It's only driven by the grades of the site, the steep topography grades. Let me put the elevation up, and maybe this might be the best. Yeah, so if you see my car here, my cursor right here, and you're dropping down, the site drops, the elevation drops at the site by 20 feet or 24 feet. So that's exactly what you're going to get when if you're at the first level where you enter here, and then you're at the bottom level here, you're minus 24 feet or so you're going to drop. Mm-hmm. So we're essentially it's almost like a walkout basement condition where we're going to build this facility into the hill. And on this level, plan left, the topography is a little more gentle. So we've been able to create kind of an efficient way to allow for the parking to flow. I also share with you in this, I'll call it the settlement agreement that we agreed to, we actually created a much better ultimate solution, we believe, for everyone. And this will create, we'll call it the club level units on, I'll call it -1. So you have the 3 stories that are going to go above, 1, 2, 3, and then you have -1, -2. -2 will just be all parking. It's 7-foot ceilings. It's the lowest level of the parking. That's kind of coming off here. -1 is the club level. It's going to be high. It's still subterranean if you're on the Bryn Mawr Avenue side. but you're going to have lots of natural light on the back end because of the topography and the hills that break out. We're able to create a higher level garage. Many times you go into a parking garage, they're lower level. This is going to be 8.5 feet. So we're going to create we're able to take advantage of that slope and create the space that we believe is a really wonderful, campus and building right into the topography.
Thanks. And along Commissioner Abel's line, I see this, and this view shows it beautifully, that the two fire lanes don't connect. I think a sidewalk there would go a long way as far as people and with walkers and whatnot that just want to go around in circles. So consider that.
We will, if we can make the grades work. We appreciate that.
Commissioner Mulroney? Oh, I'm sorry, Dr.
Do you want to go?
Do you mind? Hi. My question's more about like emergency services, right? Given the type of facility it is, escalation's going to always be hospitalization. So do you guys already have private contracts with emergency transportation and non-medical transport, or are you planning on using public facility, like public EMTs? And how is that built into kind of the economic factors that you've put into as far as the township's concerned?
No, it's not private, so we do plan to use the public facilities for the EMS and emergency.
So residents here, so non-independent living residents would be paying some sort of township fee to cover any type of emergency use?
Yes.
So I'm going to pick up on that if you don't mind. I have just joined as the commissioner representative to the board at the fire company. And our EMT. So a lot of discussion in that boardroom has come from this proposal, as well as, I think you know, there's another one going in. So they've got the idea that there are probably 400 plus assisted living beds coming to this community. And we are probably significantly understaffed and under-resourced on EMTs currently, let alone when these come up. And what I'm hearing, I don't have the site for this, but it's my understanding that on average, an assisted living facility adds 1.5 911 calls per person per year. So that's the fire company EMT folks' statistic. I don't have the site. I'm taking them at their word. You guys might have this information.
I do have some information if you want me to share, yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, because I do think right now we're in a little bit of an issue with our EMT and providing coverage for the entire township. If we're now adding on either end of our township, and I know it's not your responsibility for this other project, I'm not laying that
Sure.
on you, but it's part of the full picture. So I would be interested in finding a solution together. By the way, you know I like this project. I'm very happy with what you all have done and brought forward and how thorough, absolutely thorough you have been with the community, with me as the commissioner in this ward. I know you've been working really closely to staff, so I start by thanking you for all of that. But this is something that I think in the beginning I didn't understand the impact as a commissioner. I don't work in this space. So I'm learning about it now, and I know we're a little bit later in the game, but I do want to put it to you that I think together we need to find a solution.
Sure.
Any thoughts? Have you done this with other?
Sure.
With
So
other,
yeah,
would you hire your own EMT? Would you, emergency services do charge and get paid back, but there are certain limitations to what they can recover, and it does not cost. It does not pay for the cost of a ride, right? They can recover from Medicare and Medicaid. Little difficulty getting private pay sometimes. So it's my understanding, at least here in Radnor, that the cost of sending out an ambulance is not really covered by what they can get back.
We do have statistics, and I brought some based on a national operator that operate. It was based on, and I can share this with you and your group. It was based on 15 communities of 1,757 residents, and they looked at that data over 2 years before COVID, and they looked at it during COVID. So we have all the statistics, but in high level, during COVID, the calls were less for obvious reasons, for lots of reasons. They weren't lockdown situations, so it wasn't. So if you throw out the during COVID, pre-COVID calls per resident, they break it out 2 ways: 911 calls, and then what calls result in an ambulance trip. So we have both those stats. And I'll just share with you, and I'd be happy to get into the details, whenever with whatever your group is. It's their statistics for that large body is 0.84 911 calls per resident. And then the ones that result in the actual trip are much less. It's only 0.6. So if you take that just as an example for this community, which is 149 units, 37 of those are 2 bedrooms. So then if you take what's the maximum population that could be in this building if it's 100% occupied, which it never is, that would be 186 people if every bed was taken. We never operate more than 93%. So anyway, you're somewhere between 186 at 100% and 173 people at 93% occupied. You're around 8 or 9 911 calls per month based on those statistics.
So our EMT, we have one company that covers the entire township. So other places like fire, we have split. Like some of us are serviced by Bryn Mawr, others by Radnor. So they will feel it, right? Even with your numbers, and I believe yours because you're staring right at the facts, and I'm going off of what somebody told me.
It's okay. Yeah.
So even with that, I do think that there is going to be an impact on our ability to serve the entire community. So I would like to figure out how we can maybe alleviate the burden when you're open. Which brings me to my second, is I understand that you have agreed to a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes, since you're in a nonprofit tax exempt property. Can you tell us how much that is? I asked.
That I don't have.
Somebody else might
file.
have the number in this room. I don't have the number, so I'm
So
actually
if
curious.
someone has it, feel free to share. I know that is a requirement of our settlement agreement, so that's something we're going to have to do. I don't know if that's a hard number has been determined for that or not.
Okay, because that might be where we can make up some compensation, and then anyway, I think that's the only piece that I have a issue with. I love the design. I think it's a needed facility. I think this is a decent space for it, and I know that you've done a lot of work to make sure that you got the best proposed facility that you can. So
Thank you.
that's all I have.
I have a question about the EMTs. But how many trips did you say that was? Sorry.
I'll bring Michael back.
It would be based on that national body around 8 or 9 ambulance trips per month.
But does that mean the EMTs go to the place, to the patient, and then they assess whether or not they have to go to the hospital?
I guess.
That's a yes, right?
It's a good deal. Yeah,
So
for sure.
the ambulance is making at least a one-way trip, and then they have to turn back around. So, do you know what I mean? So if it's just say 200 people, they're making at least 200 trips. Maybe only 10 of them go to the hospital, but the ambulance is going out 200 times, right? Whatever. Yeah, but I mean, so, do you know what I mean? So
It's very seldom
so
that they don't go.
the ambulance being taken out of service is more than,
You're saying double it because they have to
well,
make
at
the
least,
2 ways every
is what I'm saying, at least.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we
So
can
just keep that in mind.
sure.
That's taking the ambulance out of service for something else, even if they don't take them to the hospital. At least that, as many calls as they get, an ambulance will respond. Right?
Sure. Well, what the stats are, there's more 911 calls that don't result in an ambulance coming to the facility.
So one thing I'll just say is typically I think the ambulance coming in, just recognizing is that the on-site clinician, they don't have emergency services, they have to call an ambulance. So
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
it's a requirement. So and my question was going to be, if you're going to have an online practice, like an on-site practice, have you already secured that contract, and with which provider group have you settled?
No, we haven't.
But you are planning on having like an on-site geriatrician and facility for the residents to see a doctor, right?
Yes, that's for more standard planned
Right.
medical
So
care.
they go to
not
them typically.
it's not designed to have
Honestly,
a on-call.
what I'm married into. But what I'll say is, even if they aren't presenting with an emergency, the only thing that clinician's armed with is to send them to the hospital. So you're going to see a volume of calls that probably aren't recognized on that statistic, just generally speaking, right? That's it's an average for one facility. I would say you're closer to Shenandoah's numbers, and I would look at those to get a sense of what you're looking at from an EMT volume perspective. And then as we look at the pilot and see, like, from a hiring and a staffing or a contractual, support system, how we can make that work. But I would say I'd like to get some more solid estimations than a study of a facility that's not here.
Yeah, and I recently have moved my mother into a beautiful assisted living in a different state. And to Commissioner Coates' point, they're not given the option about whether or not they go, right? If she was living at home, she could waive off a trip. So they get called because they don't have emergency response in their nursing staff, and they take them because they're not allowed to make that judgment call for one of their residents. So I think there are very few times that the EMT is not in a full response call. It's not just a pop over and pop back. So, I mean, we can. I hear that you are very open to having continued conversations about this, but I think it's the only sticking point is the impact on services.
Yeah, I think as to combine your thoughts as well is that it's a long way from the Radnor Firehouse to this site, and it may actually require us to put in a secondary site that's closer. So just another caveat of
Sure.
the EMS.
Well, depending on who you contract with, right? So for the medical office, if you were to use like a Mainline Health, or you were to use a group that potentially had some ambulances in their network, right? They could come close. They usually have a contract with like Ambulance or some of these private companies that would offer support, that would offer relief. So I think depending on who you get a contract with, that could help too.
Mm-hmm.
Any further commissioner questions or comments? Public comment?
Madam President, if I could, just real quickly,
Absolutely.
in case there's anyone making their way up, but the pilot agreement calls for 35% of the assessed value as assigned by the county. So you take the assessed value, take 35% of that, and then multiply it by the township's millage rate. That'll be the full amount of the pilot. The other caveat to that is during the construction period, years 1, 2, and 3, it ramps up. So year 1, it's 33% of that total. Year 2, it's 66, and then year 3, it's the full 100%. What we don't have, I think at the beginning of the negotiations, we had some estimates on what an assessed value might look like. I don't have that here with me, but we could certainly pull those from the files and start working with those numbers.
Thank you. Any other staff comment?
Noted about the paths, the existing paths. Could you just touch on that? Are you connecting to any of them, or you were not?
We're not, Steve.
Would it be possible so that folks, whether it be, as you said, more robust folks from the care facility or folks down below would be able to come up? Because I know people do go onto the campus.
Let us look at it. I mean, I'd love to hear your
Appreciate
thoughts
that.
too. We'd love to have the staff
Thank
thoughts.
you.
Can you give a little insight on I know that you pointed at it on the plan about the crosswalk across Bryn Mawr. I think that's really cool what you all are doing, so you might just want to talk about it a little bit so people
Sure.
understand what that was. And I will just preface it with the Radwin apartments across the street have been eager for something like this. And many of their residents actually go to the campus for services at J High, and so it's a great addition. So if you can just give a little bit more detail.
Sure, it's going to be Bryn Mawr Avenue is a state road, so it's governed by PennDOT. The location was also determined both with Gilmore and our traffic, as well as ultimately PennDOT approving that. And exactly where we ended up is Radwin Apartments today has a little asphalt macadam driveway or a pedestrian connection right here, if you can see my cursor here, that just stops. So that's where we're picking it up from. We see this existing foot traffic that connects to there. So we're going to pick that up here, and essentially it'll be some type of flashing beacon. It's not an overhead mast, but it's a beacon to alert vehicles traveling on Bryn Mawr that there's someone crossing. they push the button, and there's a beacon that gives them the signal for slow down, stop, be safe.
Thank you so much. It's also a path that the 100 train line is behind your property
Correct.
here. So I think it's going to be really highly used, and I'm very pleased.
In our conversations with Kaiserman owns the Radwin Apartments. They're in full support, so we expect them to be cooperative for the easements that we need to give to PennDOT.
Excellent. We're done.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll see you again. All right, on to item D, which is ordinance 2024-04, up for adoption, is the amending Chapter 280 of the Radnor Township zoning code. Could I have a motion, please? And a second? Thank you. All right, Mr. Rice, you want to start us off on this one?
Yes, thank you. What's in front of the board is, and it's been in front of the board, I think this is the third time, you have in your packet it's a July 18th, 2024 draft, which shows the changes in red, and then some additional changes in yellow that were done as a result of the last hearing on this. This amends the building height definition. It adds additional provisions to permit on-street parking. It amends the special use area provisions for for conditional uses. Also provides for additional dimensional criteria for the special use areas in the township and the WBOD, and provides for additional application requirements regarding conditional uses. It has been to the Township Planning Commission on 3 different occasions, and also to Delaware County. This is a advertised public hearing on this, and I believe this ordinance is ready to be finalized tonight.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions or comments? Seeing none, any public comment or further staff comment? Seeing none. All right, let's put it to a vote to adopt ordinance 2024-04, amending Chapter 280 of the Radnor Township Code. All in favor? Aye. All right. Item E is ordinance 2024-06. It's an introduction of a handicap space on Bloomingdale Avenue. Might I have a motion, please? So moved. And a second? And Chief Flanagan, is he going to start us off, or? Sorry to pull you in.
Thank you, Commissioners. I apologize. We were doing some traffic stuff. In reference to parking, we did have a request from a resident who's provided the proper documentation to add a handicap spot, and we are introducing 2024-06.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any public participation? Seeing none, I am going to call for a vote to introduce ordinance 2024-06. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous with Commissioner Mulrooney off the podium. Item F is Resolution 2024-93, authorization of the payment of change order number 1 to Valley Forge Power Systems Incorporated for the adjustment of the project cost to incorporate prevailing wage, bond, and tax requirements for the uninterruptible power supply replacement and bypass project in the amount of $11,835 to be funded from the Capital Improvement Fund. Could I have a motion, please? Hello. Thank you, Commissioner Coates, and a second. Commissioner Agnew. All right, Mr. Norsini.
Thank you, Madam President. So previously, the board allowed the IT department to purchase the UPS system and the bypass switch via CoStar's a purchasing cooperative. As we looked further at it, we needed to have a prevailing wage portion of that, which the contractor was able to do. And that the cost of the prevailing wage portion of that is $11,835. So that's why we're here before you tonight for the change order to add. So the original contract was $110,500. This change order of $11,835 will bring the entire project to $122,335.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, any public participation? Again, seeing none, I'd like to call the vote on Resolution 2024-93. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous with Commissioner Mulrooney off the podium. Item G, Resolution 2024-94, authorization of the award of the contract for the design and construction administration for the roof replacement of the Township building and the Public Works buildings, and for the installation of a photovoltaic solar array for the main roof of the Township building and the Public Works North Shed and office buildings to Practical Energy Solutions in the amount of $165,600 to be funded from the proceeds of the 2024 facility bond. Could I have a motion, please? Commissioner Agnew, and a second? Commissioner Coates. Thank you very much. Mr. Norsini?
So thank you. We have tonight Marika Seltzer and Jeff Toms from Practical Energy Solutions. Marika was our client contact for the entire project, bringing in all their various people. So they're going to run through what they're going to be doing for the township as far as the design and bidding services further on. We have Jeff Toms here if there's any technical questions. So I'll pass it over to Marika.
So we should have a slideshow, or at least a okay. I don't want to mess anything up.
There's a couple things up in there.
Sure. I don't want to click the wrong thing. Oh, perfect.
Give me 1 second.
Perfect.
And can I ask you just be sure you speak right into the mic? That
Absolutely.
mic. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to keep this relatively short and sweet. I understand that you have the proposal in front of you, so we'll try to hit the highlights and any questions that you may have. Perfect. A very quick genesis of why we are here tonight. In 2019, there was a commitment made to 100% renewable electricity and 100% renewable heating and transportation township-wide. From there, it was taken to a renewable energy and conservation plan that we did assist with, and then most recently to specific facilities evaluations, which you probably saw me in March of this year to present the energy analysis, solar feasibility, and roof evaluations associated. So this is that next step. The primary issue being the condition of the roofs of this building and the Public Works facilities. So we are here to provide the design for the replacement of those roofs, as well as the installation of solar on the roofs. So in quick summary, the roof of not only this building, but also the Public Works buildings are in very poor condition, which is impacting the interior comfort as well as longevity of the systems that are in place. On this facility specifically, the lap joints are failing, and a variety of issues have shortened the useful service life of the roof, and it is in need of replacement. Our proposal is to support the architectural and structural design of the replacement of this roof. All of the typical design drawings, technical specifications, code analysis, all of the fun stuff that is incorporated with the design and installation, as well as the coordination with any associated mechanical and electrical insulation improvements, rebalancing, et cetera, that is required with the changes that are required. It is a very logical next step, especially considering the goals of the township to pursue 100% renewable energy, to use the opportunity of a roof replacement to establish a rooftop solar array. And so we are proposing to design and support the installation of a rooftop solar array that will provide approximately 13% of the existing municipal buildings' electrical consumption. There's a bit of limitation on that size, which is why you don't see an array on the lower roof, based on the just electrical distribution capacity, as well as some shading from the uphill trees. We have confirmed that there is adequate structural capacity to support a rooftop array, and I do definitely want to reiterate that immediately post-roof replacement is an ideal time to consider a rooftop array. So our scope of work for the design and installation support of this is anything as far as layout, structural mounting, technical specifications, code review, as well as any drawings associated with the electrical interconnection and support of the utility interconnection for that array. The Public Works facility is in similarly or perhaps worse condition when it comes to the existing roof. All of the roofs are beyond their service life, beyond their functional service life, and are impacting the interior of the buildings, whether it's the garage areas or the administration areas, as you can see by some of these pictures here. Again, our scope of work includes all of the architectural and structural design review components to address these issues. Here, I do want to note that there will be a specific review associated with any issues that have arisen from the condition of the existing roof. And we do propose to remove the existing skylights, as they are not only contributing to the detriment of the roofs, but also removal of the skylights can expand the capacity of the solar that we can put on these roofs. So as far as scope of work, very similar, architectural and structural. And then from a solar point of view, especially with the removal of the skylights, we can provide over 100% of the public works consumption on an annual basis and apply any excess consumption to other Radnor Township-owned facilities, including the municipal building, to basically net meter everything together. So we have verified that the structural capacity on the north shed roof and the office building roof, as shown in blue on the slides, definitely have the structural capacity to support a rooftop solar array, and the electrical capacity is there as well. So again, reiterating, if we can remove the existing skylights, we can increase the solar capacity as well as reduce some of the issues that we're seeing with water infiltration. Scope of work, again, very similar from site to site. One addition here is that we have included ground penetrating radar for the utility location, thank you, because we will need to trench between the facilities, or the buildings within the facility, to just connect the array together. We have also included in our bid and proposal construction administration, all of our typical procedural items, including shop drawings, pre-bid meetings, RFIs. But I would like to note we have specifically earmarked weekly construction meetings to make sure that, especially with the roof replacement, we have eyes on all points of construction so that we don't see a repetition of some of the issues that we have seen in the construction of the roof that is currently failing. In addition, I want to note that we have included closeout documentation as far as like as-builts, punch lists, and that sort of thing, so we make sure everything is buttoned up to the specifications. Lots more detail in the proposal itself. A pretty standard design schedule, including the construction administration, in addition to everything on the design side. So we welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I'll start off because I have a couple of questions. One, thank you very much. We're really excited about this, both for non-leaking and for the solar array. I'm a little disappointed it's only 13% in this building, but I do appreciate how much electricity is actually used in this building. You know, the police force alone probably uses plenty. Do you have a handle at all, or potentially staff would, on how long it will take this to pay for itself?
So we have a return on investment, at least for the rooftop arrays.
Just for this building?
For
Or
this
are you doing the whole thing?
Sure. For this building, specifically around 15 years. However, I do want to caveat that with the fact that the township has been very active in application for recent grants. So that does not include, I didn't want to guarantee that you would receive any grants. Specifically, the local share count grant that was applied for $400,000 of the not only the rooftop PV, but also EV charging. So to be determined if that will be received, but there is also additional grant opportunities for the design costs and others that are, you know, coming throughout this cycle. So that 15-year return on investment is the most conservative side.
Okay, and what's the lifetime of the roof predicted to be? He's going to say 15 years, no.
It really depends on what you want to get and how much you want to spend on the roof. So we can get a 90 mil roof that'll last 30 years. That's,
Just give me a range, a general range, I don't.
I have to clarify that. That's the warranty that you get on the roof.
Okay,
Very
that's
important.
a big difference.
Yeah, very important detail there. But we can go, you know, we can also just get a 20-year roof. If I'm not mistaken, the existing roof that's up there right now is a 90 mil roof. So theoretically, that should have a 30-year warranty. But what we would probably end up doing is I would probably want to replace in kind a 90 mil roof, but I will have a conversation with the roofing vendor to find out what exactly do we need to do to make sure that we maintain that 30-year warranty, because I think that's really what makes sense here. Correct me if I'm wrong, solar panels, usually good for about, am I correct, 25 years?
Yeah, so, again, warranted for 25 years. However, I do also want to note that the incorporation of solar panels on top of a roof, as long as the installation is in compliance with the roofing warranty, can extend the lifetime of a roof because you're just not seeing those UV rays. You're not seeing that impact. However, also included in our considerations here are compliance with all new roofing warranties for the solar array. So including slip sheets, including everything that is needed to check the boxes of the new roof's warranty so that we don't negate that before we even get out of the starting blocks.
That's good. And then my next point, question, I guess, is I don't know if you've looked at agenda item H, which is coming right after you, but it's repaving the Public Works parking lot. And I would beg you to get that electrical line down before we repave. Because there's nothing worse than repaving a lot and digging into it 6 weeks later or whatever.
Right, that's a very good point, but point well taken.
Steve, can we work on that?
So we'll work with the consultant. So Glasgow will be ready to move relatively quickly. I don't know if we're going to be anywhere near further enough in the design to know exactly where that's going, but we will have inspectors on the site. We'll make sure it's a very good trench and a wide coverage, so hopefully it shouldn't impact anything.
Thank you.
And we can certainly coordinate with Steve on that as well. We might be able to find a way, but
Yeah, sounds like they're going to be a bit ahead of you, but
yeah,
we
quite
can
a
do the
bit,
best
yeah.
we can, right? Commissioner Agnew?
Yes, well, it was about the warranties, because the last time you were here, you and I had a great exchange, very educational for me, about the warranties. So first of all, when you say the roofs are beyond their service life, can we be clear, that doesn't mean, they failed because of, there were problems in the installation of the roof, not because they were only going to last for 10 years. Isn't that correct?
yeah, that's my read on it.
Right.
When I was up there taking a look at them,
They were pillowing and whatever.
well, all right, so if we're talking about this building,
Okay.
this building has a 90 mil roof, and in my experience, when I see a 90 mil roof, I think 30-year warranty.
Right.
But what was problematic were the seams.
Right.
A roof is only as good as it seems. And so they just were a lot beyond what I would have expected for the age of this roof.
And so part of the problem, my recollection, with regard to the warranty with that, was that the manufacturer was supposed to be brought in and certify that it was done right, and since that wasn't done, we didn't have a warranty, but no one could remember who was supposed to do what. This is my recollection of our discussion.
Well, no,
No, of the original roof, this roof.
for this roof.
Yes.
So is that,
And so what I'm saying to you is, you will be the ones to make sure that all of the product warranties, whatever has to be done, will be completed.
yes, that is part of our responsibility. We make sure that, if we choose Elevate, or if Elevate, depending on how we work the project, we may specify somebody directly, but I think typically we try to put in, say 3 vendors. There might be Elevate, Carlisle, and Johns Manville, just as an example. And those will be 3 acceptable vendors for the roofing system. We'll have conversations with each of them, but the typical procedure is that once we get to a certain point, we notify the contractor. We need to have Elevate come out, and they have to do their warranty inspection, and I want to be there when they do that inspection, because I've had an experience, not a very good experience, where, you know, a roofing vendor went out there behind my back, essentially, to do their warranty inspection. It was practically a drive-by. So I want to know for sure that they're actually doing what they're saying that they're supposed to do.
Mr. Norsini will be notified, and he can take part as well.
Of course.
in the
So,
inspection.
actually, Commissioner, we will, in discussing with Practical Energy Solutions, so a roof and the solar are some pretty technical items, and I've written up a job description for a clerk of the works, right? That's a gal or a guy who would be there every day to make sure what Practical Energy Solutions specified is what was delivered. They watch temperature for the seams, for the roofing. So these folks have specific times when we're going to be out there, but we need somebody out there on a daily basis to make sure all those items I mentioned are addressed, right? So they're going to approve a submittal. Now we need to make sure that that submittal is what was delivered, and that submittal was installed based on manufacturer's recommendations and requirements.
And that person is a present employee of the township?
No, they are not.
Of course not. Where will we find them?
It'll be through the request for proposal process.
Nonetheless, this will be your responsibility, right, to make sure that we are fully warranted.
Ultimately, yes. Basically, that the contract as we specified is executed the way that, and when I say that it's executed, warranty description is in there, and that we get the warranty that we're supposed to get. We will take all the steps to make sure that the township has the warranty that they bought.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Coates?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. This isn't for you guys because it's not, you didn't do the roof. But I guess my question is maybe more for Steve and Bill. If we're talking about a 30-year roof we're replacing after 10 years, and we're talking about it failing because it was installed wrong, what kind of cost recovery do we have with the original installers, and who's being held accountable for that, given we're in a situation where we have to redo the work?
So I don't have a correct answer for you, but this roof was installed prior to anybody, any staff here is currently, and we have found nothing to that end, right? As far as who would be held accountable, who inspected it. So the way I'm seeing it is we are where we are, and that's why we brought in these people to make sure that doesn't occur again.
Totally appreciate that. I was just making sure that, I mean, that's unfortunately a disgrace, right? Like that we've spent the taxpayers' money and we don't have anybody to hold to account for it. So that said, I'm kind of with Kathy, right? Like you guys are on the hook. I mean, as we look at the rest of the contract, we do have, you know, some sort of, I guess, checks and balances in place that if we don't get the warranty, that you'll be liable. And I assume that that's written in our contract.
We have full anticipation that we are going to get the warranty between.
I know, but we don't now. So I'm saying there needs to be, I want to make sure we have a pin on somebody that's accountable, and it's not the township.
So Practical Energy Solutions has said that they will provide that service. So if that did not occur, I would go after, not these two specifically, but Practical Energy Solutions as a whole.
Nothing personal, honestly, right?
No,
We're just in a
it's
situation where we're about to spend probably a significant amount of money on a roof replacement, and we don't have a single person to hold accountable for its failure a third of its life in. And so I want to make sure we're not in this situation again. We have great staff here who will make sure that doesn't happen. I just want to make sure that we're all clear in public, on the record, that you're telling us that you're going to hold the warranty to account, and we're going to hold you to account for that.
What we're saying is that we will specify that a warranty is required, and we're going to make sure that you basically have that paperwork so that if there is a failure in the roof, you know who to call, and that's the roofing vendor. You're welcome.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind, with regard to warranties, a lot of times the person giving the warranty likes to shrink that statute of limitations on that warranty.
Don't get me started.
Okay, so that's okay. I don't want the statute of limitations shrunk on this. They like to, we have a warranty for a year. That's just not going to do it.
No, so the way it typically works is that you'll have an installation warranty through the contractor that installs it. And then there is a material and workmanship warranty and that is your 30-year. So that basically says that the EPDM will be free of defects. Now, what we need to make sure of is, in the instance of, say, like the lap splices, that's where it's instrumental to have somebody on site watching what they're doing and making sure that, okay, yep, they primed that roof surface before putting down the splicing tape, and that the splicing tape is the proper length on both sides. Because, again, a roof is only as good as its splice joints, because if they fail, then all is lost. The material warranty that comes from, say, Elevate or Johns Manville, often will not cover the actual physical installation of the splicing tape. So we do need to make sure that that is done correctly. And that's, that responsibility is held by, a good review during construction administration. And if we also have the added benefit of a clerk of the works that is, really putting a magnifying glass on things, that certainly gives me the warm and fuzzies. Because that's...
John? And you'll be able to review the contract with regard to the warranties at least?
Yes, we were...
Just discussing that, I'm sure.
We were reminiscing what happened with this building, which I think opened in 08, 06. So it was, and I came along in 09, and there were already problems at that point. I mean, Steve's idea of a clerk of the works, somebody who's got boots on the ground, is a that's the most important. Once the job gets designed and bid out, that's really where the rubber
That's
meets.
engineering. I'm talking legal, John. You'll be able to review it and say the warranty is good for this long and this and this and this,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment? Any public comment?
Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue, one of the original Green Team. I talked to Robin, who's in Maine. So I want to thank the township for honoring the Ready for 100, which was a long time ago, and to commend the township for continuing to move forward with this. Solar is happening in Radnor Township, but it's slow. And so we're convinced that once the township has solar, and the expenditure of money on electricity begins to reverse, that it's going to serve as an example to other people in the township who go, oh, okay, maybe I should look at this again. And that's the way we're going to beat it. To make you guys feel better, I have solar panels on my roof. I have a very small house. I have 3 very large trees that belong to Radnor House, and they're not about to prune them. And my electric bill last month was $9.88. So and I have different conditions. I do not own my solar panels because I had my identity stolen, so I'm leasing them, so I'm not saving as much money as other people will. But it's the principle of the thing. I just commend the township for continuing to move forward, and hopefully it'll be a catalyst for residents to begin to move forward too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further public participation? So I realized I had one more quick question for staff. It probably would have been for Ricky, but that means you, Bill. Is there any problem with the is anybody upset about the skylights going away?
I'm pretty confident saying no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
They
curious.
will
I
not
mean,
be
somebody
missed.
wasn't
Yeah.
bonded to the light or something. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Time for a vote on item G, Resolution 2024-94. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right. Item H, Resolution 2024-95, authorization of the award of the contract for the construction of the Public Works Garage parking lot project Contract B 24-002 to Glasgow Incorporated in the amount of $235,005 to be funded from the proceeds of the 2024 facility bond. Could I have a motion, please? And a second? Thank you. Is it Mr. Norsidi going to start us off?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
So the engineering department went to bid for the repaving of the Public Works parking lot. I will say it's not just your normal resurfacing. It hasn't been done in some 20 years. It is in terrible shape. We are actually going through the wearing course and the base course and coming back up with spec because there are large trucks, and that spec was designed for that. So I'm happy to say the price came in at $235,005, or $235,005. Sorry, folks. And the engineering department recommends that the project be awarded to Glasgow.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions, comments? Seeing none, any public participation on this issue? My only comment, of course, is the same thing I already said. Don't put a 5-inch new surface and then cut into it a couple weeks later, but maybe there's nothing we can do about it. All right, all in favor of Resolution 2024-95? Aye, unanimous, thank you. All right, that concludes the business agenda. Next, we have reports of board liaisons. Anyone have anything? I have the bad news that the Board of Health had a resignation today, actually of the chair of the Board of Health. So we'll be working on that, just to know that. We have until September for the next meeting. Any new business? Old business? Any final public participation? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adjourn? And a second. All in favor? Aye. We're out.